Marquette tram driver charged with sexual conduct.
Jimmy John's latest victim in credit breach. I'm Dan Kampanen.
And I'm Hannah Schutzkis, and this is your Public Eye News. Former Marquette tram driver William Arbelius has been charged with second-degree criminal sexual conduct. The 62-year-old allegedly assaulted a mentally challenged passenger on the bus on March 7th. The trial is still ongoing through this evening, and if Arbelius is found guilty, he could face up to 15 years in prison. The United States Forest Service is giving up popular UP destination spot Wildcat Falls in exchange for 421 acres at the southern boundary of Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park in Ontonagon County. The switch is occurring between the Forest Service and a private landowner. Critics say the government has failed to consider unique characteristics they are giving up, such as scenic rivers and wetlands.
The Jimmy John's off of US 41 in Marquette is the latest victim of a credit breach. The sandwich shop said it learned of a possible security incident involving credit and debit cards on July 30th. Jimmy John's believes an intruder stole login credentials to remotely access cash registers. Some customers' credit card numbers, expiration dates, and verification codes were stolen between the 16th of June and the 16th of September. Jimmy John's is looking into the situation and is currently offering credit monitoring services. 36-year-old Karen McDonald of Manistee has pled not guilty in her arson trial yesterday. According to the court testimony, McDonald suggested 18-year-old co-defendant Christopher Crummich burned down her insured house with 9-volt batteries. McDonald is charged with arson of an insured dwelling, conspiracy to commit arson of an insured dwelling, accessory after the fact, and lying to a police officer. McDonald is scheduled for pretrial on the 1st of October.
Manistee resident Thomas Bex Jr. pled not guilty after being charged with attempted murder. The 58-year-old allegedly slit the throat of Teresa Gorney in an argument amongst the two that was about sexual favors. He is also charged with assault with intent to do great bodily harm and assault with a dangerous weapon. In Detroit, Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx announced this morning that the city will get over $32 million from the federal and state governments to buy new buses in an effort to fight overcrowding and reduce wait times for riders. During the announcement, Foxx told Detroit high school students that they deserve a bus system that keeps its promises and gets them to school in a timely manner. The 50 new buses will be hybrid and clean diesel and will replace older buses that often break down. And we'll be back with your national and international news after the break.
Tune in Saturday night at 11.
Welcome back. After 6 years at the helm of the Justice Department, Attorney General Eric Holder is resigning. He plans to stay on until the confirmation of a successor. At his formal announcement later tonight, Holder plans to express his gratitude to President Obama for the opportunity to serve under his administration. An official from the Obama administration noted some of Holder's accomplishments, saying, quote, "He revitalized the Justice Department's praised Civil Rights Division, protected the rights of the LGBT community, successfully prosecuted terrorists, and fought tirelessly for voting rights, to name a few," end quote. Holder was sworn in as 82nd Attorney General in February of 2009, being the first African American to have the seat. Investigators are still piecing together the fatal shooting of a deputy at the hands of another. Authorities say a fellow deputy shot him during a standoff in LaPlace Wednesday afternoon. WWL's Monica Hernandez has more.
It was a tragic day on this normally quiet block. Authorities say 50-year-old Lieutenant Nolan Anderson, a 25-year veteran of the St. John Sheriff's Office, was fatally shot by a fellow deputy.
To see my officers have to use lethal force against one of my very own, I never thought I'd see this day.
St. John Parish Sheriff Mike Trigg says it all started around 2 this afternoon when deputies responded to a call that Anderson had a gun and was fighting with his wife. Trigg says deputies tried to talk him down, but instead Anderson started shooting toward them, and that's when a fellow deputy fatally shot him.
We had to make a decision to use lethal force. I wish we could change it. We can't, but hopefully the sun will come up tomorrow.
About 4 hours after the shooting, neighbors who had been evacuated during the chaos were able to return home. Sidney Smith Jr. is Anderson's second cousin.
Told everybody evacuated, and I was knocking on the door to tell people to get out the house.
Many in this close-knit community say they knew Anderson well and had never known him to have issues with his wife. Many here say they're shaken he's gone. Harold Basil last saw Anderson Friday while the deputy worked security at a local high school football game.
He had to crack, because he was happy Friday night. Told me he had 4 more years. His son was getting ready to go to the Navy.
State police have taken over the investigation. They say Anderson was on duty at the time and died at River Parish's hospital. His wife has minor injuries.
There's a lot of interviews that need to take place, a lot of evidence that needs to be collected.
And for neighbors and loved ones, there's still a lot to process after the shooting of a veteran deputy. Monica Hernandez, Eyewitness News.
Egyptian rival groups Hamas and Fatah have reached a partial agreement on how they plan to govern the Gaza Strip, but admit the discussions still have a long way to go. The tension between the groups has risen after Fatah claims Hamas failed to handle the war with Israel in an appropriate manner, leading to unacceptably high losses of life. The salaries for ex-Hamas employees and security matters have yet to be resolved between the two, but if the issues are resolved, it would put into practice the unity government that Palestinian factions entered into in April. President Obama may have been ambivalent about returning to combat in the Middle East, but his speech to the UN General Assembly committed the U.S. to an all-in strategy in the battle against terrorists. CBS News' Bill Plant has more.
No God condones this terror. No grievance justifies these actions.
It was a call to the world to respond to the successful advance of ISIS militants and the growing threat they represent.
There can be no reasoning, no negotiation with this brand of evil. The only language understood by killers like this is the language of force. So the United States of America will work with a broad coalition to dismantle this network of death.
5 Arab nations have joined the U.S. in air attacks on ISIS in Syria, but the president called out Muslims who provide support for extremism and bolster those who preach intolerant visions of Islam.
That means cutting off the funding that fuels this hate. It's time to end the hypocrisy of those who accumulate wealth through the global economy and then siphon funds to those who teach children to tear it down.
President Obama also chaired a session of the United Nations Security Council.
The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously,
where he oversaw the passage of a binding resolution to counter the threat of foreign terrorist fighters, requiring countries to prosecute extremists, to stop them from traveling through their lands, and take steps to prevent their arming and financing. But he acknowledged stronger steps would be necessary.
Promises on paper cannot keep us safe. Lofty rhetoric and good intentions will not stop a single terrorist attack.
Samuel Little, a 70-year-old man, has been sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms in prison in connection with the murders of 3 Los Angeles women during the late 1980s. Little in court today shouted that he didn't do it and he hopes for a new trial. His lawyer has filed an appeal. Little amassed an arrest record in 24 states over 56 years, for which he spent less than 10 years behind bars. He was arrested at a shelter in Kentucky 2 years ago after DNA evidence connected him to the LA killings. And we'll be right back after the break with your weather and sports. Stay tuned.
The PBS Arts Fall Festival presents live from Lincoln Center's acclaimed production of Stephen Sondheim's musical thriller, Sweeney Todd, starring Academy Award winner Emma Thompson, and Bryn Tervel in the title role. The PBS Arts Fall Festival presents, live from Lincoln Center's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Friday evening at 9 on Public TV 13.
Welcome back. I'm Douglas Hardy with your Public Eye News weather. If you look behind me, it's a little dreary out, but the weather's not too bad, so don't be afraid to go out and enjoy it. The current weather is partially cloudy and 67 degrees, with winds south-southwest at 7 miles an hour. Barometric pressure is 30.27 inches and holding. If we look to tonight, we can expect a low of 56 degrees with winds out of the south-southwest at 7 miles an hour. And tomorrow, tonight is still partially cloudy. Tomorrow, we can expect a high of 76 with winds out of the southwest at 8 miles an hour. If we look around the UP, you can see that Sault Ste. Marie is 70 degrees and mostly sunny. Down in Manistee, it's 66 and sunny. It's also 66 and sunny in Escanaba, while it's 70 and partially sunny in Menominee. It's 74 and mostly sunny in Iron Mountain, and 68 and mostly sunny in Ironwood. While up in Houghton, it's 70 degrees and cloudy, and back in Marquette, it is 67 degrees and partially sunny. Now, if we look at the weather ahead, we can see that it will be a high of 76 tomorrow with a low of 59, and it's predicted to be sunny. Sunday is predicted to be a high of 75 and a low of 52, mostly sunny. While Monday will finish up with a high of 62 and a low of 47 and cloudy. So it seems like a pretty nice weekend to be watching baseball. Can I hear about that?
It's a great day for the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers clinched a playoff spot with a Toronto loss and 6-1 win over Chicago on Wednesday. With the win, the worst the Tigers can be now is a wild card. Detroit is trying for its fourth straight AL Central crown, and the Tigers took a 2-game lead over second-place Kansas City with the win. The win did not come easy, as there was a short brawl during the game after Chicago pitcher Chris Sale hit Victor Martinez around the left shoulder. Tempers flared and the benches and bullpens emptied before order was restored. The skirmish seemed to ignite the Tigers, who looked dormant up until that point. Led by Miguel Cabrera, Detroit scored 3 runs in the 8th and never looked back. Detroit's next outing is a 4-game series against the Minnesota Twins starting tonight. In Detroit, officials are expected to hold a groundbreaking for a new 18,000-seat hockey arena and 45-block entertainment complex. Governor Rick Snyder and Detroit Mayor Mike Dugan will attend the groundbreaking, which is scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Last week, a $450 million financing plan was approved for the arena, and Olympia Development is committed to investing another $200 million on new residential, retail, and office space in the district. Red Wings head coach Mike Ilitch has said the new hockey arena will open in 2017. ESPN has suspended another well-known analyst. Bill Simmons was suspended after he repeatedly called NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell a liar during a tirade on a podcast. Simmons, who is also an editor for ESPN-owned website Grantland, released the podcast Tuesday. He said he thought Goodell lied about the security video involving Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice hitting his wife in an elevator. ESPN released a statement saying, quote, "Every employee must be accountable to ESPN and its journalistic standards," unquote. Simmons' suspension is for 3 weeks. What's going on in Central Michigan?
Well, Central Michigan is turning a little bit more into Brew U. The university at Central Michigan is creating a new program in fermentation science. The courses will include classes and lab work. Students will also be getting hands-on experience in brewing, which is termed production scale setting. This program will be launching next year and will be focused on aiding growing craft brew industry here in Michigan. And that's all the time we have for you today here at Public Eye News. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope you tune in tomorrow.
The preceding program was produced in studios located in the Edgar L. Hardin Learning Resources Center by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television.